Jesse Scott, thank you so much for joining today and having a chat with me. Do you want to start by, telling the people who are going to join us and learn more about what we're doing with Databricks and Protect AI? Who are you? A little bit about your background and what you do at Databricks.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Zoe. Always a pleasure to speak with you and Protect AI. My background is I'm a grizzled old cybersecurity veteran, spent a decade in NATO doing as a security architect, essentially, before moving on to Ernst& Young, CrowdStrike pre-IPO, um, Amazon. Who else have I worked for? I've done some venture capital things, and now I'm at Databricks as their global head of cybersecurity, really building our cybersecurity business and offering. And a lot of you may be familiar with Databricks and be like, I didn't know they do cyber, but just wait, you will.
Yeah, that's actually where I wanted to start because obviously Databricks is not like some young pup in the industry. Most anybody in tech knows about Databricks, but I don't think necessarily everybody knows about what that presence in cybersecurity in particular looks like. And I've been really excited to partner with you and work with you on this and learn more. So you want to share a little bit just at the highest level, what is that work that you're doing within Databricks to build out that cybersecurity practice and how's it going?
Yeah, well, there's a few things. I actually think it's quite a natural intersection. And like yourself a little bit, Zoe, I came from Amazon slash AWS, so I was familiar with Databricks and what they were doing. And essentially in the industry, there's a big, I don't even say a gap, I call it more of a yawning chasm of a problem. And it's that, data is exploding across the globe. We're going to hit 200 zettabytes this year. 30% of that is streaming. And if you look at traditional security architectures, they just aren't geared to cope with that amount of data. And like the data velocity, the data variance, it's difficult. And AI is only extrapolating that problem because it requires so much data to train and fine tune these things. So it's just getting more and more. So Databricks, lo and behold, the Spark platform is really good at ingesting tons of data. We're talking like exabytes, petabytes, whatever, like tons of data and performing really fast on it, things that incumbent traditional solutions can't really handle. So even though it wasn't geared to do that initially, it seems like it's really well positioned to do so. And then again, as a platform, we call ourselves a data intelligence platform. We're geared for doing data and AI. Lots of our customers build ML and AI workloads on top of us. So two questions come around that when this relates to how we work with you, and that's how do we secure these AI workloads? We want to have more AI workloads in production. As a business, we want more of our customers to put more AI workloads in production, so we want to ensure they can do it securely. So we have a lot of motions going towards ensuring customers can reap the benefits of these new technologies and do it securely. And then we get to the other side of the coin is how can we use AI to protect the enterprise? And that's a whole other rabbit hole that I won't go down yet, but there's lots of ideas around that too.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think one of the big motions there were two big launches in our book from last week. I want to start by talking about the Databricks AI security framework. You guys launched your updated 2.0 version of that security framework. Can you tell me a little bit like why you were motivated to build it, what you think that updated version means for the industry? Yeah, and any like key insights on that you feel like are really relevant?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, there's some frameworks out there. You're probably familiar. You guys are no doubt familiar with MITRE
Yeah.
Atlas and things of that sort. But we thought we wanted to have a more practical guideline for, again, organizations and enterprises wanting to secure their AI or ML workloads. And again, it's not a checklist. You don't need to do everything in the framework, but we thought let's break it down to the typical cycles from, again, fine tuning, pre-training, different stages of development, and provide different risks that may apply to your organization. They might not all apply, but it's up to you to look at it and say, oh, yeah, we should be checking this risk. We should check that. So that was really the impetus, again, to get people creating secure and in production AI workloads. We've seen virtually everyone and their dog creating AI, but very few putting them in production still. And I think we want to offer that level of assurance, and that's what motivated it. It's as you know, it's free. We thought it's a good way to contribute to the community as well, and that was part of the motivation. A great team worked on it. I can't take much credit for that. I'm basically a reviewer for that stuff, but it's great. And then it was awesome to find partners like Protect AI who could align to that framework and say, hey, we'll check for this. It looks like a good idea.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously, second big launch of last week was, we were really excited to launch officially our partnership with Databricks. Um, like, I'm curious from your perspective. Everybody wants to partner with Databricks, right? Because you guys are a big deal. So you're pretty spoiled for choice. Not to toot our own horns here, but why not? Why did you bother with us?
Again, I can take some credit for that because I was excited about working with you guys. So that was on my plate. And I would say it's a lot of the traditional kind of VC investor portfolio, and it's those three T's. It's the team, the total addressable market, the TAM, and the technology. And I think you guys had all three. We know this is a huge market, and you're no doubt aware it's competitive already. There's tons of players in this space, so separating the wheat from the chaff is hard. But I was familiar with some folks on your team, and I trusted them. I like that. I like yourself and Ian's background from AWS. I know you're very deep into AI, so you have that. The technology was good. You've already made some acquisitions, which is very rare for a company as early stage as yourself. So it just foreshadows you're thinking ahead. Um, and and also, I guess there's the personal thing. We just seemed to work well together when we met, so it was exciting, and I think we can do a lot together. You guys are bringing the security, and we're hopefully bringing forth a lot of AI workloads for you to secure. That's the idea here.
Yeah, I think what you said earlier is interesting, that there is, I mean, because as you know, I've worked in AI for a long time. I'm in year 13. At this point, I think I'm about as veteran as a commercial person can get in AI. Not on the science side, the scientists go back into the 60s, but on the commercial side, people who sell it, I'm about as veteran as it gets. And this idea that AI happens in a lab but not in production is nothing new. I mean, this has been a challenge since really the beginning of trying to commercialize what's happening with machine learning. But what's interesting to me is the shift. In the earlier days, we had bits and bobs of the technology, but it was very difficult to get those bits and bobs to be effective in solving an enterprise problem for lots of reasons. And it depends which genre of ML you're talking about, but just in general, that was true. I think what's happened is, with so much evolution in the science that backs up artificial intelligence, now with this wave of generative AI, what you're seeing is actually much faster to get ML to be productive, to come up with, to be a model that is effective at completing a task. And what that's done is it's created this big backlog into this new world for AI, which is enterprise security. For the longest time, that wasn't what was slowing down getting AI apps to production. It was the AI itself was not good enough to replace a more traditional kind of piece of technology or technique. Now you can not only get there, but you can get there relatively quickly on the development side. And so there's this big backlog kind of piling up and creating internal pressure to figure out how to unlock those workloads. I'm curious what you're hearing from cybersecurity leaders on that. How are they thinking about that problem? How are they trying to solve it today? Are you hearing that from the cybersecurity side? Because they certainly see it from the ML side.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a boogeyman in the room because it's so new, as you say, at least the capability we have now, and it's iterating so fast too, right? The capabilities are insane how they're coming out that people want to harness it for an advantage, and security's role is not to be gatekeepers, it's to be, enablers, but safe enablers. So with this new force, able to really give competitive advantage, we want to do as much as we can to get it out, but we've got to do it securely. So there's a lot of trepidation. People are afraid as soon as we see some big flaw come out with AI, some attack or something went wrong, some data leak. I'm sure heads are going to roll and people are going to panic more. But I guess it's a bit of push and pull right now. They're trying working with different vendors. They're trying different control sets to take care of it. But I don't think anyone has a sure answer because it's too new and it's moving so quick. And perhaps there will never be a certain answer. I think we probably will have to use AI to secure AI ultimately. As strange as that sounds, it's kind of the snake eating its tail scenario. But it's just moving so quick. Humans can't prepare for things that quick. So I think that's going to be how the solution works. And then you're going to have something auditing those and trusting those models. I don't know, maybe some kind of blockchain ledger that's, that's supposed to be immutable. So I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but it's definitely talked about. And I think it's a little bit of a boogeyman, again, as I say, because no one has a perfect answer for it. We're all trying to figure
Yeah,
it
this
out.
idea that it's an interesting theme, this sort of like AI to secure AI thing. A lot of times when you're in the cybersecurity market and people start talking about AI and cybersecurity, that's sort of the theme. And to me, obviously, as a like long-term AI girly, I'm like, duh, that's table stakes. Like, of course you're going to build your AI into your software. Like, why the wouldn't you? Of course you're going to do that if you can, if that's a good and reasonable technique. Certainly we use quite a lot of ML on the back end of our products to help kind of manage, as you said, like the sprawl, the capability, the evolving threats, and lots of different techniques there that allow us to do that. So, yeah, I do think that it's kind of table stakes going forward for security products. Obviously we specialize within AI and ML security products, so we use AI and ML to secure AI and ML cybersecurity, et cetera, et cetera. But you can use it for any security workload, as you're saying. So I think that's really important.
Mhm.
So that there was a kind of interesting thread there that I'd love to go back to, which is this, everybody wants, there's not a lot of this in production. And I like to pick on that a little because I think that we've noticed with a lot of our customers, the idea that there's sort of traditional ML, think like churn prediction models, fraud detection models, personalization models, a lot of like, let's call it time series or more old school ML versus more new era AI, the generative AI applications, the LLMs, the chatbots. And look, I've built a lot of old school bad chatbots in my day, so I'm excited that there's a new era of these things that are much better and reasonable. But actually, a lot of that traditional ML is in production for customers. That's where the dominant amount of production workloads are today. But this LLM, the LLM vector is really new. And the threats kind of introduced by these incredibly stochastic, dynamic models are a completely different type of like threat surface for customers to navigate. I guess like I'm curious what just looking out at the market compared to other evolving threats that are in the marketplace right now, how top of mind is this for cybersecurity leaders versus other kind of parts of the market that are shifting and evolving really quickly?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty top of mind. Obviously, they can't neglect other duties and data. As to me, the biggest issues in cybersecurity are always data and
Mm,
identity, and identity of your services, applications, agents in the future, probably,
mm.
etc. But and data. So it plays into that core landscape, but it's still a new ecosystem. To your point, how it's managed, and I think it's almost, I guess you'd call it a subdomain or sub-ecosystem of itself. And I usually describe the AI threat landscape in terms of shift left and shift right. And the shift left is like, okay, what data is this being trained on? Is this good data? Is there poisoning happening? Things like that. You protect what's the supply chain, and the provenance of that data is really important. And then the shift right is that output stuff, which where you get into like prompt security and things, which I think are a little more nebulous because the context matters a lot for that. And your hallucinations. I've heard someone who really knows AI really well saying hallucinations are actually not a bug; they're a feature because it's not a typical binary computer application anymore where one plus one is two. It's reasoning, it's thinking, and it's learning, and it's going to make mistakes sometimes and change. So that's a whole new can of worms to explore itself. But yeah, looking at that subdomain, as I call it, end to end, is tricky, and I'm not sure if like Protect AI is probably doing a good part of it, but can everyone get the whole end to end of the whole thing? I'm not sure at this stage.
Hi, Jesse Sino.
We got a visitor.
I love a visitor. That's amazing. Yeah, I think so. So just to linger on the integration a little bit, what we launched last week from an integration perspective, we were able to integrate Databricks and one of our multiple products. We integrated Recon directly there. So Recon, which provides that offensive security, red teaming capability. Directly kind of pointed at a Databricks endpoint and make that integration really smooth for a Databricks user, which we're excited about. The other kind of component of that that is really unique to Databricks is that we actually mapped it directly to that Databricks AI security framework directly in the product. So if a customer wants to know whether their LLM application has any of these vulnerabilities that map back to that DASF, it's done directly within the product suite itself, which I think is pretty cool. We've never done that before with another partner. We've done it with some of the other, with NIST and MITRE, but we hadn't seen another partner, I think, really put out, such a thoughtful framework. And in fact, one of the big updates between version 1 and 2 was the need to do this red teaming. And so I think that's such an interesting opportunity for customers that they don't actually have to know what are all the latest attack vectors. How do I test for them? How do I know if I have a prompt injection issue? How do I know if I have a jailbreak issue? How do I know if I have, a safety issue on this LLM application? You can just directly point Recon at that Databricks endpoint and then run those tests and have that visibility straight out of the gate, which I think is pretty exciting.
It's so exciting. It's so key. Also, like, it's a lot of legwork unless you have an AI doing it to go line by line down a framework and checking each and everything. So seeing that visualization, oh, this looks red, this is yellow. Like maybe we need to look into that one. Like it just makes it so much easier. That's how it should be. And that's the extrapolation. That's the ideal of where the framework would go. And again, not every red thing is going to be important for your model or your organization, but at least you're aware and you
That's
accept
not
that
new for
risk.
security teams, right? Like I think a lot of security teams are like, we know we have risk over here, but we're willing to take it. But just having the
Yeah.
knowledge and the visibility to it is pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's always the balance, the acceptable level of risk for your organization or what your business is
And
doing,
of
of
course,
course.
just because we talked about AI for AI, it is, Recon does run quite a bit of ML in the background on some pretty heavy compute, um, and I think one of the very cool things about that, because I've spent an un, an, a sort of like very nerdy amount of time reviewing the agentic scans that we do against common models, is oftentimes the way a traditional red teamer might go against trying to test one of these models wouldn't necessarily break the model the way that an agentic scan can break the model. And what I mean by that is when you start to dig in there, the first pass, hey, tell me your system prompt, doesn't do anything. That doesn't get any kind of compromised response. But then when you get down into like some really squirrely stuff, start speaking in French, it's a hypothetical situation where you're doing some education, to teach a course, then now you're getting the system prompt. Now you're getting, you start to see some really interesting combinations of techniques that do create vulnerabilities for customers. And so that's where I think using this combination for that AI for AI mindset is so powerful because it's where you can start to really hammer these stochastic models and see the differences in responses and go 15, 20, 40, prompts deep to get to a visibility on where you potentially have vulnerabilities within your environment.
Yeah, agreed. The thoroughness of that is amazing because, again, that's something your SOC team is not going to do manually themselves or any typical red team. So having these red teaming ability to dive that deep is super important. And I wondered which of us was going to win the buzzword bingo of mentioning agentic first. So
I
you
think you
win.
actually got there first. You said it earlier. Yeah, no, you
Did I?
did.
Did
Yeah,
I
you did.
mention
Don't worry.
it?
Although it is, of course, the buzzword. So, you know, you work in cyber, and have a long history of it. I worked in ML and have a long history of it. Like we both could probably play buzzword bingo as actual professionals on stage somewhere. But what is as you look out at the horizon and what's next? Maybe this is what's next. Like maybe what we're talking about today is what's next. We just launched it, so maybe that's it. But when you look out at the horizon, what are the things that you're keeping an eye on, both from sort of a threat landscape and as a cybersecurity professional and leader, like where that is kind of, I don't know, keeping you up at night is maybe not the right term. Maybe keeping you employed is the right term. And from an innovation landscape, the stuff that you get excited about, like what do you see on the horizon?
Yeah, a lot of things. these are fun questions, obviously. And to your point on agentic AI, well, it looks like we're probably going to see a shift from like SaaS apps to more agent-based services, and that again is a new model. And it's scary, I guess, if you look into the weeds, but it's also exciting because things are going to get more efficient and faster. And where's that going to take us? But we have to develop new ways to protect that as well. So I'm excited about that, frankly. I also think in this world, we're seeing a lot of regulation around like AI and privacy and things. So I think we're going to see a lot more concern around, like it already exists around data ownership, data provenance, data governance, and I think that will lead to ultimately more modular like cybersecurity frameworks and controls, because right now you've got a little bit of a
Mm.
monolithic thing. You've got these large cyber companies. I don't need to name them, but they try and own every part of your organization, all their security, be it endpoint to vulnerability management to SIM, like all the pieces. And I think it's going to be more modular for enterprises, particularly large ones, because they don't want all their eggs in one basket. They want to have control of their data. They want to have the classic defense in depth. So I feel like those monoliths might break down a little bit, or they might be targeting the smaller businesses. So I think that's a shift in cyber. Two
Yeah,
things I think of.
interesting. Always interesting. Um, I'm checking my notes here, make sure I didn't miss any questions I wanted to make sure I got to today. Anything else you want to leave out? Yeah, there was one other question I had. Folks who watch this are sort of a mix of, let's call it business leaders, and cybersecurity professionals, obviously other technical partners, but there are a lot of just like people out there that are looking to contribute in a meaningful way at this moment in the market. And it reminds me of very early days in AI and ML. And I had this saying then, I still have it now, which is like, there's not enough AI talent for the AI revolution that is coming. And I still believe that to be true. I think if you apply that to AI cybersecurity, it's a even more specific and true statement in the current world, where it's a really tiny tent right now of people who are specialists in this space, that spend time in this space, but it needs to be much bigger for the world that we're going to be in the next 5 years. What would you say to a practitioner or a professional that is, maybe at the intersection in their career where they're thinking, hey, maybe that's something I really want to specialize in or get really smart on or make a contribution to? Where would you say, this is where to show up and how to show up or how to really kind of contribute into the ecosystem?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I love that you defined the audience for this too, because ultimately we're talking about AI risk. That's what it boils down to for a business, an enterprise, a government, whichever. And what I would say, I think it's really exciting times. We're going through one of those transient times in history, just like the Industrial Revolution, where we're probably going to see, the scaremongers will say a lot of jobs will go away, and that's probably true, but a lot of new jobs will be created. There's a lot of new services out there. And one of our investors at Databricks, A16Z, Andreessen Horowitz, Mark Andreessen talks about this era of AI being akin to probably the internet, like 1995, like, which talk about a land of opportunity, how much wealth and opportunity has been generated since that. So, and it might just be the kickstart of that. So I'd say like dive in, start using these tools, learn about them, because I would wager for anyone out there, there's something interesting that it's doing related to something you're curious or have a passion about. How can AI and data science and machine learning apply to that? What could you do to take this forward? It's prime time for starting businesses and opportunities in the space, disrupting. And I'm a big fan of disruption. I think a lot of industries need disrupting. So I would encourage people to be creative and just dig in and try stuff and see what works. Honestly, I don't have an exact school track because I think education is going to be disrupted as well. So nothing wrong with that. Just yeah, dig in and play with it and see what you can change and make the world a
I think
better
one of the
place.
coolest
It's
things about the
exciting.
machine learning world is at its heart, it was built by and nourished over decades by scientists and academia. And so much of that research is available for free if people want to learn. One of my favorite hacks is just like Google Scholar as a strategy, that if you think somebody's built something interesting, just go read their latest like paper. The papers are always interesting and push our thinking. And I think especially if you're not an academic, it's a very useful lens because it takes you out of, say, the strict demands of the marketplace and allows you to see a different perspective and look at that history of science and think about how it could be applied differently. So, um,
I agree so much. Like, diversity of thought. You don't need to be a scholar to dig into these papers, and it's rarely a day goes by where I don't use Perplexity and even its new deep learning feature now, playing with different models. You can find so much information so quick. Like, our the availability and speed we can get things figured out is amazing. So
my
why
favorite
not take
hack of today was
opportunity for
I
that?
did use I used a open source GPT model to convert time zones in that I got on to schedule a meeting because my brain always gets them backwards. So that's my favorite hack of the day. Jesse, thank you so much for your time. We're so grateful to you and the team for the work you guys have been doing on AI and cybersecurity thought leadership, and obviously bringing solutions to market and working together with us to make it easier and easier for customers that are building to protect those AI workloads. I know it's just the beginning of a long and fruitful partnership, but excited to have launched last week together and excited for what's to come.
Yeah, likewise, Zoe. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to speak to you and to join the Protect AI team. Look forward to our next initiative or adventure.